Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? 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 We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi. Hello, 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 and welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. Y'all, I am heading back to Cape Cod this weekend to play 2 shows of Million Dollar Quartet at the Cape Playhouse, both of which are taking place on Saturday. The second of these shows will be my 750th time playing the role of W.S. Fluke Holland, an absolute, that's just an insane number of times to have done one show. I'm really excited about this milestone, so yay for that, I guess. But to make this more, podcasty, I'm actually going to throw something into Zoo News here that usually only happens in the interview episodes and only towards the end of them. That's right. You know what you're about to hear. It's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show. But there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari Poop Story. All right, so I just had to share this with y'all because it was too funny to me to, not share. So yesterday, I was on the phone with my good buddy, Jason. Now, Jason is someone who I work with a lot, from Million Dollar Quartet to his shows, Great Balls of Fire and Less Honkin' More Tonkin', to my show, Under the Sun, and also the upcoming Wrecking Crew show that I'm writing. We work together a lot. I guess we're also friends. Should probably mention that. I've definitely mentioned Jason on here before. But anyway, so we were discussing an offer we have that's a pretty unique opportunity for us and both of our shows next year, when suddenly Jason just started yelling. Just, oh my God, no, why? Now, the dude is walking through the streets of New York City at the time, so I am 100% convinced that he was, in the process of seeing or experiencing something terrible. So I give him a second and then say, buddy, you okay? And he calms down and goes, dude, no, a bird just beep on me. And I didn't even realize what it was. So I reached up my hand and touched it and rubbed it. And now it's on my shirt and hand. And oh God, hold on a second. John, hold on a second. Sir, can I please just take some napkins? A bird just, oh God. And he had clearly gone up to a food cart and taken some napkins. And it was in that moment that I realized that animal people and non-animal people have just wildly different views on animal poop. But I couldn't help but laugh and say, oh, man, hey, you have your own Rossifari Poop Story.
Poop Story.
Now, isn't that exciting? And then after that, I actually told him, and I know I've mentioned this to y'all before, but my grandmother always said that getting pooped on by a bird was good luck. Weirdly, Jason did not take comfort nor solace in that fact. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with y'all because it was so entertaining to me, and just to be the person who would be the least sympathetic person in the world to one of my friends getting pooped on and freaking out about it when that would happen is just amazing to me. This is Rossifari Zoo News, and it is a crowdsourced Zoo News episode. So if you see anything that you would like to have included in these upcoming episodes, you can Tag me in them on the socials at Rossifari or at Rossifari Pod on the TikTok machine, or you could email them to me, rossifaripod@gmail.com, and I will, of course, say your name at the end of the episode. But by the way, make sure you hit subscribe as well so that you don't miss any of these episodes or the interview episodes. Now, before we get to the news, a quick programming note. I recorded this one super early this week because I'm heading to my gig early because I have a few fun visits planned on this trip. Some for the podcast, some for me, and one in particular that I cannot wait to share with y'all. Because honestly, it is one that you have been asking for a while now. That's all I'll say about that. But yeah, so with that said, let's get to it. All right, so we're going to start off with our headline story this week, and that is that Charlotte the stingray has died of the reproductive disease that led the facility she was at to think that she had gotten pregnant either by parthenogenesis or from one of the sharks that shared her tank with her, leading to all kinds of controversy and one of the biggest blunderings of a PR situation I have ever witnessed. And y'all, I'm old enough to have lived through the most recent presidential debate. So yeah. And look, I'm not going to do another full-on recap or another deep dive or, frankly, another takedown of all that went wrong with this situation, because I have done that in this space a few times already. And as fun and easy as it is for me to rant about all that, the point has been made. But I do want to point out a few things about this situation that I've been thinking about a lot since finding out that Charlotte passed away. The first one of these is just a friendly reminder to all of us, myself included, that the people who take care of animals, whether in the world's best accredited facilities or in small, independently run places that maybe aren't meeting the welfare standards we all want to see, are still just people. They are real humans. And by and large, they are humans who love animals and want to do the absolute best for them. Now, while there will always be the type of people that use these facilities to exploit and abuse animals, those are often the people in charge. And most of the day-to-day caretakers are doing the best they can, learning constantly, and stressing about the animals and their care. I've met so many people who work in this industry at facilities that they don't condone the practices of at all, but who are trying to get experience to get to the better facilities and who are doing everything in their power to improve the quality of life of the animals they care for while at these places. And it's actually an incredibly interesting and nuanced philosophical debate when you think about it. Now, I think everyone listening agrees that these bad facilities shouldn't exist. And to be super clear, I'm not saying that unaccredited facilities shouldn't exist. There are some that are fantastic. I'm saying bad facilities, regardless of their accreditation status. But I think everyone, like I said, agrees that these bad facilities shouldn't exist. But we also live in a world where there isn't enough information and advocacy and regulation to fully prevent them from existing. So what is the best case scenario for the animals that are currently at those facilities? Isn't it to have day-to-day care staff doing everything in their power to give those animals the best life possible? At least until, legal processes happen and they get taken away and sent to better places? And if that is the case, then shouldn't we be a little more gentle towards the people in those positions than I often see people being online? And Sure, I could see some people listening to this right now and saying that I'm being hypocritical, as I have certainly said more than my fair share of negative stuff about the facility that housed Charlotte, as well as some other places. But I only ever bashed the management and honestly, mostly just the PR people, especially once they doubled down on the whole maybe she did get pregnant by a shark thing. And so, yeah, I want to take a minute now to extend my true condolences to the people who cared for Charlotte day in and day out. I'm sure this media circus was incredibly challenging for those people, and I am sure they are missing the animal they loved and cared for. And we need to remember that. And I think we need to remember that they can see social media and stuff like that. You know, they're people. They're people who care about animals. And I think we can all relate to that. The second point I want to make is just that misinformation has really taken a hold in our society and in the media, especially the very online journalism sources that are out there. So many of you sent me articles about Charlotte passing this week, including some of you being kind enough to send me multiple sources. Thank you. And the vast majority of them gave a quick recap of the story leading up to her death without bothering for a second to mention that it was mostly BS and there was no chance she had gotten pregnant from a shark. That possibility is still being floated all over many of these sources. So let this serve as a reminder to remember to vet your sources carefully. And the final thought I had, and something I keep thinking about a lot, is how something involving an animal can go super viral. It can be Charlotte. It can be me drumming with Emily the elephant. It can be a baby hippo named Fiona who was born prematurely and shouldn't have survived, but did.
All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
Hi, this is Kathy Hill from the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. We're all about restoration projects in progress this season on One Lagoon, One Voice. Learn about the great strides the lagoon community is taking to restore and protect the Indian River Lagoon. Each week, we dive deep into discussions with scientists, resource managers, and nonprofit leaders to explore lagoon issues and solutions. From oyster reefs to clam restoration, algae blooms to muck, you'll learn all about the projects we're tackling to bring the Indian River Lagoon back to health. Click the link in the show notes to follow One Lagoon, One Voice, learn about the IRL Council, and explore our unique lagoon.
And in all those cases, and so many more, the animal never knows. Zoo guests have parasocial relationships with animals sometimes. And a quick reminder, that's a fancy phrase meaning a one-sided relationship where the other side is unaware of the relationship. We absolutely fall in love with the animals that we see, sometimes even just on social media, not even like seeing them at the actual facility they're at. And we care about them, despite them not knowing that we exist. I actually sometimes wonder with the animals that I do get to spend time with, like frequently at certain facilities, do they remember me? Are we friends? Or is it some kind of weird parasocial relationship with repetition? I don't know, but I think it depends on the species and the amount of interactions. But that's an entirely different discussion. My point for now is simply this. I think it's really amazing to think that with all of the press, all of the hoopla, all of the fans who flock to see her, all of the debate and discussion and social media posts and crazed questioning about her situation that happened, to Charlotte, the entire experience was she lived her life, she got a reproductive disease, she lived with it for a while, and then she died. And that's true for every one of these famous animal stories, except for the ones that haven't died yet. But spoiler alert, it's coming for them and for all of us too. Well, that's a positive way to start off this episode, isn't it? But no, seriously though, Fiona doesn't know she is famous. She doesn't know there are people watching her on webcams daily, or wearing hats and shirts with her name and likeness on them, or following the correspondence Timothy sends her, with bated breath. But the humans involved are very aware of it all and get such joy from it and such connection from it. And honestly, it's one of the things that gives me the most hope for humanity. That ability to fall in love with animals, to give love without getting it back, is actually beautiful. It's also something that makes me think it might not be too late to turn a lot of things around and save a whole lot of species from extinction. And in the end, if even just a few more of us think about that from time to time, then I think that's a pretty great legacy for Charlotte to have. Even if it is one that she is unaware of. And that brings us to our births for the week. The Oklahoma City Zoo has announced the birth of 5 lion cubs. 5! They are all doing well so far. 5 new lilets. Incredible. The San Diego Zoo has announced the birth of a new tapir. Now, the last time they had a baby tapir, they named it Don, like Don Taper, like Don Draper. I love it so much. And he went on to legendary status and now lives at the Nashville Zoo. Here's hoping this one is just as iconic. And if you don't know, tapirs have watermelon-like patterns in their skin when they are babies, which is absolutely adorable. The baby, by the way, is named Suna, S-O-O-N-A, which means moon. Longleat has announced the birth of a secretary bird chick to Mum Janine and Dad Kevin, which are awesome, boring, normal human names for birds named after a boring, normal human profession, which I like. Okay, so actually, the origin of the name secretary bird is contested, and there are multiple possibilities, including it coming from said profession, and also it having literally nothing to do with human secretaries, but the joke wouldn't have landed if I, admitted that up front. And staying in the UK for a moment, the Devon Zoo has announced the birth of 2 lynx kittens, also named Kits, or if you're with me on my nomenclature, lynxlets. The Toledo Zoo has announced the birth of 13 king cobras. Whether it's in the fictional world of places like Westeros and Game of Thrones, or real places like the drama in Great Britain right now, seriously, where is Kate? The whole thing just feels so sus to me. Anyway, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that having multiple kings is never really a good idea, so... Oh, wait. That's just a species name. Never mind then. And hey, congrats to the Toledo Zoo. And then last in our births this week, the Colchester Zoo has announced the birth of a dick that is absolutely adorable. And to make it even cuter, the kiddo's mom is named Pumpkin. And then we get to our deaths for the week, and we're going to start this with a sad one for sure. Emmett, a cheetah who lived at the Columbus Zoo, has passed away. I'm actually going to do something I never do on here, which is just read their announcement for the death because it was just so well done. All right, so to quote the Columbus Zoo, Emmett was more than just a cheetah. He was a symbol of resilience, companionship, and the incredible bond that can form between animals and humans. Born at the Wilds in 2016, Emmett faced adversity early on when he was rejected by his mother due to health complications. His journey to recovery began with the dedicated care of the Wild Encounters team, who knew they couldn't do it alone. Once his health stabilized, Emmett chose his own best friend, Cullen, a yellow Labrador retriever who became his lifelong companion. Emmett and Cullen were inseparable, balancing each other perfectly. Emmett's cautious nature was complemented by Cullen's confidence, and together they brought joy to everyone they met. Emmett's love for life was evident in his enthusiasm for meeting people, racing at top speed in the watering hole, and his undeniable love for food, whether it was a tasty ice treat or a hearty shank bone. Alongside our other cheetah dog, Cash, Cullen will continue to be a vital part of the Wild Encounters Africa team's cheetah care. Emmett's impact extended beyond entertaining and educating zoo guests. He contributed significantly to the well-being of his species by regularly voluntarily donating to the Cheetah Blood Plasma Bank, a testament to his exceptional training and trust in his caregivers. Emmett's willingness to help other cheetahs, even as he brought joy to millions of zoo guests, showcases his remarkable spirit. Emmett had been battling health issues for some time, and our animal care and animal health teams have been evaluating his progress daily. Recent blood work identified notable changes, and the decision was made to sedate him for further evaluation. During that evaluation, he unfortunately passed away. Emmett started his life on shaky ground, but grew to become one of our most beloved and impactful residents. His legacy will live on in the countless lives he touched and the profound contributions he made to cheetah conservation. That was so well done. And Emmett was a very, very special cheetah. And seeing Emmett and Cullen together, it was hugely impactful every time I got to see them together. So just sending all my love to the entire team at the Columbus Zoo, and honestly to all of us who just fell in love with that dynamic duo. What an amazing privilege to have gotten to see such an incredible story play out in real time. The Tulsa Zoo has announced the passing of Jody, one of the geriatric chimpanzees who called the zoo home. The correct and humane decision was made to euthanize her because of age-related health concerns, including atrial fibrillation and congestive heart failure. This is also an example of, we talked about this on Zoo News recently, that the zoo had announced that this was coming. So I love that transparency, and I'm sad now that she is gone. But nice work by the Tulsa Zoo. And then last in this section, the Idaho Falls Zoo has said goodbye to Kimani, their 21-year-old lioness. In her old age, muscle atrophy and arthritis ended up making mobility too much of an issue for her despite attempted treatments, so the decision was made to say goodbye. She will be missed, and her son Hondo, who lived with her, is being given lots of extra love and attention as he adjusts to life without her. And that, of course, brings us to the rest of our Zoo News section. So I'm going to start this section off by talking about something I only heard about this week, but that has been an ongoing concern for a while now. And this is relevant not only to every single zoo that houses reptiles, but also to any pet owners who have them as well. So back in 2022, the Department of Energy passed a regulation moving to ban the use of certain incandescent light bulbs that are considered inefficient under modern standards. In particular, this regulation will eventually prohibit the sale of any general service lamps, to use their term, that do not meet a minimum efficiency standard of 45 lumens per watt. And by and large, this is a really good regulation, making sure that companies aren't able to rip people off by selling inefficient light bulbs or by offering inefficient light bulbs at a reduced price, thus causing more energy consumption for no real reason. So overall, positive development, yay. But the regulation does not specify exactly what general service lamps includes, and there was some serious debate about whether or not reptile lamps are included. Halogen and basking bulbs are both incredibly important for keeping herps happy and healthy, but due to their intended use, they do not function at these new efficiency standards, nor really can they. So the question has become, will these bulbs be prevented from being sold or even manufactured in the United States? The Department of Energy just recently released more information clarifying their position, and as of now, it looks like all such lamps under 125 watts will not be allowed to be manufactured or sold once this ban goes into place. A lot of herpers are recommending stocking up while the situation gets resolved, while others, of course, are saying that everyone's freaking out about nothing because internet. But with all of that said, the government is still listening to the public and to experts on this matter and have acknowledged they may make allowances for animal-specific bulbs. But that is still uncertain. So basically, it is very important that the government understand that reptile lighting does not fall under general service lamps. I've not been able to find any official sourcing on this, but I have heard that the AZA and AAZV are currently drafting responses to the Department of Energy, hoping to make this point very clear. And to be clear, there are other ways to provide adequate heating to herps than just these bulbs, including ceramic heat emitters, radiant heat panels, and deep heat projectors. But all of these have their own unique problems and also would require a huge investment and change of setup for every single herp owner and every single herp exhibit at every zoo and aquarium across the country. So here's hoping the government makes the right decision on this one, which, to be fair, probably means we're screwed. But anyway, 2 weeks ago, I told you they were likely moving soon. Last week, I told you China had a farewell ceremony for them. And now I can confirm that the giant pandas have arrived at the San Diego Zoo. The panda area isn't open to the public yet as the bears adjust to their new homes, but they have arrived. Yay!
All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
What if I told you scientists discovered 100 new species in the deep ocean?
Why did crocodiles survive extinction?
Megalodon. How did it go extinct?
Hey, it's me, Forrest Galante, wildlife biologist. You might know me from Joe Rogan's podcast or my various TV shows like Extinct or Alive and Shark Week. Join me and my friends as we dive into the wild world of animal anomalies and everything wildlife. Don't miss out. Click here to uncover these mind-blowing animal mysteries.
Maine State Aquarium has finally reopened its doors after a 4-year hiatus. I've talked about this intermittently on here over the last few years, but Maine State Aquarium is the only aquarium in the state of Maine. That was pretty obvious. Located in Booth Bay Harbor, the facility has been struggling to get back on its feet since 2020 when COVID forced it to close its doors. During that closure, officials discovered damage to the walls, floors, and electrical systems of the aquarium that ended up costing over $1 million to fix and or replace. And while you may be thinking that the damage couldn't have been that bad if it only cost a little over $1 million to fix, knowing how expensive all that stuff can be in aquariums, you have to understand that this is a small facility. How small? Well, it's one room, y'all. It's got a touch tank, some rare lobsters, some jellies, starfish, a lot of the, standard small aquarium animals. But again, it's a tiny place. That being said, apparently it is hugely popular as the facility always brings in a lot of guests, many of whom have been pining for it to reopen since the pandemic hit. As a matter of fact, it only took 15 minutes from the time of reopening for the aquarium to have a capacity crowd and have to stop allowing more guests in until others left. But the people outside didn't mind. They lined up and were happy to be in queue and waiting their turn. So overall, I'm really excited that this aquarium is open again because while I haven't been there and don't know anything about it other than this story, it seems like it's a popular place that people love. And hey, anything that connects people to animals makes me happy. A young kinkajou was found abandoned at a rest stop in Yakima, Washington recently. Seriously. The Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife Police rescued the little guy and took him to Point Defiance Zoo and Aquarium as a temporary home. The zoo is working with the agency to find him a forever home and also to assess his wellness. But what an incredible story of collaboration and rescue. I'm grateful to the zoo for taking the little guy in and using their resources to help him out. The Santa Barbara Zoo has teamed up with Figueroa Mountain Brewing Company to promote the incredible work the zoo does. The brewery has created 3 unique brews to help raise awareness. Long Neck Lager, featuring a giraffe, not like in the lager, but, on the artwork on the cans. Hoppy Frog IPA, which is descriptive and a great pun. And my personal favorite, of course, Red Panda Lager. What a fun way to promote the amazing work done by the Santa Barbara Zoo. The Aquarium of Niagara has announced the official opening date for our newest exhibit, Great Lakes 360. The doors will officially open on July 13th. I actually recently got to tour the new space, and y'all, it is incredible. It's actually an entirely different building than the aquarium is currently in, which is cool. Yay, expansion. And the work they put into it is phenomenal. The exhibits are awesome, gorgeous, totally different from what I've seen at most aquariums. Oh my gosh, y'all, there are lampreys. Do you know what lampreys are? If not, you need to. There are lampreys. My breath was taken away by those weirdos. There's also a lake sturgeon touch tank. Now, lake sturgeons are huge and have like a bony spine, but are still like squishy fish otherwise. So it's a really unique experience to reach in and touch them. I've touched a lot of things in touch tanks, and that was a unique one, y'all. And then real quick, just as a final note here in the Zoo News segment, the walruses Ginger and Aku have returned to the Indianapolis Zoo. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'll know my episode with Ginger and Aku, and of course, keeper Erica Allen, remains one of my all-time favorites. Meeting those two was an absolute dream, and I am so glad they are back at the zoo after extensive renovations to their habitat, which I'm excited to see the next time I get to Indy. So yay! All right, and that brings us to Stereotypical Animal Podcast theme song. Here to bring you to conservation news. The state of Texas recently made history by granting the first ever conservation measures for mountain lions in the state. After 50 years of no regulation for mountain lions, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission voted unanimously to approve 2 proposals to take care of this species. This is amazing news, as Texas now stands with all 16 states with breeding populations of mountain lions in having regulations around the hunting and trapping of the species. And this also serves as another fun reminder that even in today's very special political climate in the United States, it is possible to enact incredible change, even in places that may surprise some people. This is actually the second week in a row we have a story like that, so it's nice, it's hopeful, it's good. Less good. Over 120 dolphins were stranded on the beaches of Cape Cod this week, the largest mass stranding event ever seen on the Cape. At least in decades, maybe ever. They're not 100% sure. They're trying to figure that out, but looks like maybe ever. Amazingly, thanks to marine mammal rescue efforts, only 10 of the dolphins died. The stranding event took place along beaches where people were hanging out, and even happened during like an on-beach wedding and during a kid's summer camp, showing just how widespread the individual strandings were in their locations. It was like 125 dolphins along like a mile stretch of very popular beach. Scientists are trying to get to the bottom of what caused this truly unique and terrifying event. In researching this story, there was one fact, though, that I read that caused me to feel a little amusement, honestly. So I feel like I have to share that with y'all because this is Rossifari, and even hard stories can have some levity to them. So it turns out that many residents of the Cape were traumatized by seeing the mass stranding. Obviously, not making fun of that at all. But the amusing bit to me, maybe ironic. This is kind of that is it not ironic? But anyway, it's this. In some towns, those who felt traumatized gathered together to commiserate with one another. And the places that they gathered were local seafood restaurants. The jokes kind of just write themselves at that point, you know? And then last but not least, in conservation news this week, I get so frustrated whenever I talk about rhino poaching because we have so many ways of knowing that rhino horns have no reason to be valuable. But old beliefs and bad people continue to inflate their value. However, the one thing that often makes me feel better when these stories crop up is the incredible and innovative work being done to save the species. For instance, 20 rhinos at the Rhino Orphanage in South Africa have had small radioisotopes inserted into their horns. These materials would be picked up at any border crossing, meaning the horns, should they be poached, should be unable to be smuggled out of the country. And hopefully that accomplishes two different things. First of all, there's the notion that, if these rhinos do get killed, if they do get poached, then at least the horns won't make it out of South Africa and people will get arrested, and hopefully the trails will be followed back and more people will get arrested and lots of people will get arrested, and maybe we'll get some more poachers to, be in jail instead of keep poaching. But also, if word of this spreads amongst the poaching community, then maybe they will be less likely to try to poach rhinos in this area in general. Maybe we can hope. So definitely a cool two-pronged approach and something that just doesn't bother the rhinos at all. So big fan of this approach, and hopefully we can stop doing this and just stop having poachers. But until then, I'm all about this innovation. Very cool.
It's time for other news. It's time for other news. Hey, now, right now, it's time. It's time for other news. Hey, it's a segue to the part called other news.
All right. So we only have one story in other news this week, and it's a quick one. Hippos can fly. That's the story. Hippos can fly.
Oh, animal, oh, animal.
Okay. I guess I owe you a little more details than that hippos can fly, and that's it. Okay, so they can't really fly, but scientists have recently discovered that hippos do take off when they run full speed. For about 15% of their run, hippos get all 4 feet off the ground simultaneously. Now, this is particularly interesting as scientists are starting to realize there isn't really a standard way of walking or moving quickly for our largest animals. Elephants, for instance, never get all 4 feet off the ground at the same time. It's kind of crazy to think that they might, that anything this large would. But rhinos also have a very different style of walking and trotting than either elephants or hippos. I don't know. It's really hard for me to picture a hippo with all 4 feet off the ground, like barreling towards a target. Yikes. But anyway, yes. And now we get to the thing we already started.
Oh, animal, holidays. Animal, animal holidays. Hey!
All right. It is July, which is Plastic-Free July, National Bison Month, Parks and Recreation Month, and Wild About Wildlife Month. And then we have our individual days and weeks, starting with July 6th and 7th, which are World Firefly Weekend, which reminds me of a fun story. So I was hanging out at home recently, and I was on the front porch with one of my dogs, Flam. Now, Flam is a mini Aussie and is the crazy pants of the family. And we were chilling out there, and it was very calm. It was just the two of us. It was very nice. It was a nice light breeze, just a beautiful evening. It was dark out. And I saw the first firefly of the season. And it made me smile. And I actually thought, this is really beautiful. It's really nice to see the first firefly of the season, right? And chomp, immediately, Flam lunged for it and got it and ate it and looked so darn proud of herself. And y'all, that is life with a mini Australian Shepherd. So that firefly will not be contributing to the July 6th and 7th World Firefly Weekend, but many others can celebrate. And then July 6th also starts Dragonfly Week, which runs from the 6th to the 14th. And then the 9th is World Saola Day and Cow Appreciation Day. And then the 10th is Capybara Appreciation Day. And those are your animal holidays for the week. So there you have it, folks. Another episode of Rossifari Zoo News is in the books, so to speak. In your feed would be more accurate. But anyway, I'd like to say thank you to all of my Red Panda level patrons, including Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, and Jenny Owens. And I'd like to remind you that you can support the podcast for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who contributed stories this week, including Anya Keene, Colleen Lenehan, Kim Cooley Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky, the Malenskys, Andrew King, Dr. Laura Schenk, Nikki Morley, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Ann McEachran, Melissa Reed, Matt Patford, Becca Robinson, Amanda Berg, Lizard Dunlevy, Sage Spiker, Jody Allen, Elizabeth Charles, Jay Meredith, Rebecca Surian, and Laura Mincy. Thank you all so much for sending these stories this week. And don't forget to make sure that y'all are back here on Tuesday for our next interview episode. And until then, remember, friends, the words newsy credits backwards are Steiderk Yiswen. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo. First of it,